Hello, my friends. Welcome to Savannah Knits, my knitting podcast where I talk all about the things that I'm knitting that are bringing me joy. My name is Savannah and I live in Utah in the United States with my husband and our two little boys. And I love to knit and read in my spare time. I also want to keep going with the question of the day. I love hearing all of your answers. So today's question of the day is, how did you learn to knit, or who taught you? If you crochet, I'd love to know how you learned that as well, or any other types of making. I find it fascinating how we all learn. I learned how to crochet from my aunt and learned how to knit from YouTube. So there is my quick answer for today. I have so many finished objects to show you today. I feel like I have had a lot of smaller knitting projects that I've been working on, and it just happened that in the past week and a half I just finished almost all of them. So I am very excited to show you all of my finished objects. I think I have 4, and then I have 2 brand new works in progress that you haven't seen before, and a little bit of a media update at the end, as well as what's coming up in the future as far as videos that you can expect from me. So we've got a full episode today, so I hope you have some knitting or crocheting or whatever you're working on handy, and that you can just sit back and relax, get some making done, and let's chat. In an effort to not make this video a million years long, I feel like I am going to breeze past some of these finished objects just a little bit. And if I forget some details, you are always welcome to check out my Ravelry. My username is Savannah Knits, and I have all of my details on there that you would need to know. So if I miss anything, feel free to do that or leave me a comment. I respond to every single comment down below here on YouTube, so you're welcome to do that as well. The first finished object that I have are some basic socks. I finished my beach house socks is what I'm calling these. These are made out of Sorella yarn nylon sock in beach house, which is why I'm calling them beach house. I used 2.25 millimeter needles, magic loop for these, and I did a 72 stitch cast on, which I mentioned last time is too big. So these socks are too big. I tried to shrink them in the dryer a little bit. It did not work very well, but that's okay. They're still comfy, they're still cozy, they're still wearable. I will still wear these a lot. I think there just will be more house socks because if I wear them in shoes, they get a little wrinkled around the foot and the toe because they're so big. So that's okay though. I think that the color and the variegation of the yarn is absolutely gorgeous. I love all these colors together. I did 10 rows of 1x1 half twisted rib on the top, and I did a 4-inch leg, heel flap, and gusset. I started these on November 15th and finished them on December 2nd. So they took me 2 weeks, and now I just have another beautiful sock to add to my collection, even though they're too big, but that's okay. I mentioned before that 72 stitch cast on used to be my number for socks, but that was back when I was knitting super tight, and I have since consciously tried to knit a lot looser, so that's why they are too big. They kind of just look monstrous when I hold them up. Like, yeah, they look big, but that's okay. I started another pair of socks, which I will show you later, and I did a 64 cast on those and been knitting looser, and they fit really well so far. So just a learning curve. Still excited to wear these because they are very beautiful. Let's break up the accessory knits a little bit, the smaller finished objects I have, and talk about my big finished object, which is the port jacket by Ozetta. I finished and I'm so happy with how it turned out. So I used 4mm needles, and I used East Tex Lopi in light gray. Let me see if I can hold this up in a way that you can see it. Kind of see it. It's finished and it's beautiful. I'll put in some pictures and things while I'm talking. So yes, I made an extra large, which gives me 11 inches of positive ease. And that is the most amount of positive ease I've ever made in a garment. So I was really nervous that it was going to end up being too big and I wouldn't like it, but it is perfect. I can fit it over all of my sweaters, even the more oversized ones. I can fit it over anything, and the sleeves aren't too tight for, you know, sweater sleeves. It ended up so perfect. Last time we talked, I mentioned that I forgot to do the double knitting on the last 2 rows of the sleeve, and I was debating whether to go back and unpick, or not unpick, because I would never unpick a tubular bind off. I would just cut it. I was debating whether to go back and cut it and redo to do the double knitting, and I think I just got in that perfectionism mindset that it needed to be perfect and that I was this close to making the absolute most perfect garment ever. And a lot of you had gave me some good perspective of just let it go. So I did, and yeah, can't even notice. I doubt I will even remember that I forgot the double knitting in a couple months. So I'm glad I didn't have to go back and do that. After I finished the sleeves, I started the button band, and I thought it was a double knit button band and I misread the pattern. So only the first couple rows of the button band are double knit to match the double knitting on the hem of the body. And I just assumed that it was double knitting throughout. So I started this button band probably like 3 or 4 times because I was trying to get a good row gauge and a good stitch gauge to be able to have this button band be the size that it needs to be. She gives you a measurement of how long widthwise it should be, and it should match the row gauge of your body so that the button band isn't pulling or flaring, anything like that. It should just be straight with the body. So I swatched and did a button band before I started, but I did a double knit button band because I thought it was double knitting the whole way through. So I had to rip back and keep ripping back until, one, I read the pattern correctly and figured out that it's not double knitting. It's just knit and purl throughout here. And then get the correct needle size, which the correct needle size that I ended up needing was a 3mm. So going down a whole millimeter size. So once I figured that out, it was smooth sailing from there. And it was actually really nice because the last time I did a button band like this where you're working vertically up the garment was the book club cardigan. And that one it's a v-neck cardigan, so you just work all the way around in one big thing. This one is a round neck cardigan though, so I could just work up this side, put those stitches on hold, work the other side, put those stitches on hold, and then you work the collar, and then as you're working the collar you pick up the button band stitches on hold. So it was really nice to split that up a little bit and not feel like the button band was just one big slog. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. I found her pattern writing for the button band was so incredibly clear, so instructive. She even has a YouTube tutorial linked that I referenced many times, as much as I needed to. And I think this is my first pattern by Ozetta, and I am just very impressed. I find her patterns to be, or at least this pattern, to be such a pleasure to knit because I am never confused about what is happening next. I can just follow the pattern and enjoy the process of knitting without having to stop and figure out what she's telling me to do. And if I am a little bit confused on the technique, then she has a video that gets straight to the point. There's no talking in the videos, which I find really honestly kind of helpful because it's just showing you right from the get-go what to do, so I don't have to wait around in a tutorial for them to talk about what they're going to do and then actually get to it. you click on it and it shows you immediately what you need to do. It's just so effective and efficient. And I feel like that's her pattern, is this pattern is just so efficient. And I really, really appreciate efficiency. So it was really smooth sailing, even with the buttonholes and everything. And then this collar, this was my first time doing a folded collar knit flat because it's a cardigan. And there is a lot of short row shaping in the collar. You can kind of see how this edge is a lot thinner than this middle edge. So it has two sets of short row shaping to make sure that you're shaping as you come out from the collar, from the body, and then again on the inside, so that when you fold it down, it lays perfectly flat, and the same on either side when you fold it down. So I really enjoy the look of the folded collar as well. I think it looks really professional and it's definitely warm. So I enjoyed that aspect. And then I purchased these toggle buttons from Petite Knit's website, which they were a little bit more expensive, but I really couldn't find anything similar, and I wanted to match the pattern photos, the sample photos from Ozetta, so it was worth it in the end. And I really make sure to do a very tall shank right here, is that I think it's called, so that it wouldn't be as the button band wouldn't wave out from the button when you button it, and it still does a little bit. It still comes out a tiny bit here, but not as bad. Overall, I feel like this is going to be my go-to jacket for every single cold day. It is incredibly light, it is warm, it fits perfectly. I love the length on the sleeves and the body and the width of it all too. I love this ribbing detail on the sleeves right here, and I love the rustic yarn look as well, and overall just so happy with how it turned out. I started this on November 5th and finished it on December 6th, so it took me 1 month to make, and I'm so happy with it. So happy. Maybe I'll try it on real quick so that you can see it on me. I feel like it fits like a glove. Yeah, this is it. Oh, it's so cozy. I don't want to leave it on because I think I'll get too warm filming, but it is just so incredibly cozy. And I did kind of test it without a shirt on underneath because I have more of this yarn, and I was wondering if I could make a sweater out of it or if it would be too rough and prickly. And I think it would be prickly without a layer underneath. So I'm not sure if I want to make a sweater out of the other yarn that I have. I might just make another port jacket, honestly, or another cardigan style. So yeah, that is my port jacket by Ozetta. The next finished object that I have is the Tiny Tree Socks by Summer Lee. This is a free pattern, and they're just these tiny little cute socks that you can make into ornaments if you'd like. I made 3 of them. I used 2.25mm needles, used an assortment of scrap yarns that I had, and this pattern is perfect for those scrap yarns because it only uses a tiny little bit of the yarn. I think in the pattern it mentions it only uses 20 yards or something like that. I could be wrong on that, but I'll show you the 3 that I made. So I made this one, which is using the Sureli yarn nylon sock in Beach House, and then I picked up this silvery embroidery thread from a local craft store to tie on. The second one, I made this mohair pink one. It's made of Malabrigo and Kauai and a strand of mohair from Treehouse Knits. And it's Serenity by, nope, not Serenity by Jan. It's Casual Day, that's what it is. So I used those 2 together And I did omit some of the rows and in the leg and the foot and the ribbing, just because the mohair and the fingering together were making it more of a DK weight, so I didn't want it to be too big. And I did the same thing for this purple one. I used 2 strands held together for this one as well, both of them Treehouse Knits. The sock yarn is I Smell Snow and the mohair is Serenity by Jan. And I love these socks because, especially with these two, because I've made sweaters out of both of these yarns. Well, I've made a sweater out of a cardigan out of the purple mohair in this sock. And then my Doppio sweater uses both of these yarns. So I love that they're little reminders of the sweaters that I've made. So every time I see them on my Christmas tree, I just think of those sweaters and how much fun it was to work with the yarn. Yeah, I made these in a day. We watched Polar Express. We showed our boys the Polar Express for the first time this past Saturday, I think. And I just sat on the couch and made these while we were watching. And I think they're so cute, so tiny. Little keepsake ornaments for my tree. First time making knitted ornaments. And I don't think I'll be making a lot because they're not a waste of time, but to me, I feel like I want to be making a sweater or socks that will fit me, and I'm less of a knitter that makes decor type projects. So I don't know how much of these I will be making. I thought it would be fun to make these for gifts, for neighbor gifts or people in my family or close friends, but I don't enjoy making little things like this for very long. So these might be the only 3 ornaments I ever make, and that's okay. One last finished object to show you. I made the Fold Lopi Tote by Adrienne Basilia. I use 9mm needles, We Are Knitters, the Petite Wool, and Yarnicorn. And I had a lot of this yarn, so I wanted to make it a lot larger, so I did adjust the stitch counts to make it larger, and then I just knit for a long time until I ran out of yarn. So this is my tote. Oh no, I have yarn in my eyeball. I think I got it. I lifted up the tote and a piece of fuzz came down into my eyeball. So yes, this is my tote. It was so fun. This was my first time felting anything, and I could not believe the transformation. Here's the before picture, and then it turned into this after one cycle with hot water in the washing machine. That blows my mind. I need to research the science behind it or have someone on YouTube explain it to me, because I don't understand. Me and Nathan, after it came out of the washer, we both just stared at it. We're like, how does that happen? How does it go from being this knitted thing that you can see the stitches to being a solid fabric that you can't stretch and can't see through? I don't understand, but it's really cool. So as I mentioned, yes, I increased the stitches. You can go on my Ravelry page if you want to know the exact numbers and how to factor in the handles and where to put the decreases and all of that. So I did that, and then I saw another person on Ravelry say that they knit down until they had around 28 grams of yarn left, and then did the decreases, and then they had 5 grams of yarn left after that. So I thought, okay, perfect, I'll just do that same thing since our stitch counts are similar. She also casted on a lot more. So when I hit 28 grams, I did the decreases, which you can see here. And by the time the decreases were done, and then you do a 3 needle bind off on the bottom, I had 15 grams of yarn left. So I definitely could have knit for longer, but that's okay. I was not expecting this to shrink as much width-wise as it did. I feel like it was a lot thicker width-wise, and it really scrunched in. But that's okay. It is smaller than I thought it would be, but still useful. I still really love it. I'm not sure why I don't know if this is unique to this yarn or just a felting thing, but I feel like it is very fuzzy. You can see how much fuzz is around it. So I don't know if that's a yarn thing or just felting or the way I felted it, but I plan on making more of these bags because I have other single ply bulky wool yarn that I have no idea what to do with. And I find these bags to be very useful as, you know, project bags, or right now they're holding all of my reading snacks. So yeah, I think it's just a really cool thing to make with extra scrap yarn that isn't a hat or an accessory. If you're not an accessory knitter but still want something to do with your scraps, you could consider a felted bag. I started this on November 25th and finished it on December 9th. So it took me 2 weeks of off and on knitting to make this beautiful bag. All right, now we're gonna go into works in progress. Thanks for sticking with me so far. First, I'm gonna talk about my next pair of socks. I am doing more basic socks, and I am using Ruby and Roses, their soft rose base, in the color Gumdrops, which is based on some sort of Christmas gumdrop that I have never eaten, but I love the yarn very much. I've been making so much progress on these. It's amazing how much faster I'll knit a pair of socks when I know that they're going to fit, and I love knitting with heavily variegated yarn for socks because I love variegated yarn so much, but I realize it's not sustainable to keep making like sweaters or t-shirts out of it because it is expensive, and it also can get annoying alternating skeins, and superwash yarn can be unpredictable when you wash it and block it. So I have really found my sweet spot in loving to do socks with heavily variegated yarn. So this is what I have so far of this sock. I did 15 rows of 2x2 ribbing on the top, 4-inch leg, heel flap and gusset, which I really do want to try to learn more sock heels, or to at least try different sock heels, but I'm still trying to find my perfect fit. So I'm gonna try to find my perfect fit of this style of heel and then move on. But as I mentioned, 64 stitch cast on. I've been knitting looser, and this one fits so well so far. So I'm really happy about that. I also have been loving knitting looser. It just, I don't know if it's this yarn, but the fabric feels so soft and plump, I guess is a word for it, and it stretches so well. So I feel like it's going to fit so much better. I love the hot pink with sometimes this neon green, and then it has darker shades of green and blues and a little bit of like periwinkle in there. It's just really fun to see where the colors line up. I find it so satisfying to knit variegated yarn like this, and I feel like it's perfect for a pair of socks because I love crazy socks. I love wearing crazy socks. So I am so excited to have these done. I am made some good progress on the foot, so hopefully I'll be to the toe soon, and then I can cast on the next sock. I started these on December 2nd, and that means I've been working on them for 1.5 weeks about. Perfect Christmas socks that aren't screaming Christmas, but I will always think about Christmas and enjoy making them during this month. And I think I'm gonna do that for every Christmas, is just treat myself to a hand-dyed sock yarn based on Christmas so that I can knit them through the month of December. I think that sounds really fun. These are what I'm calling my Christmas gumdrop socks. One last work in progress to show you. I am doing the Hibernate Pullover by Amy Scher. I am knitting with 4mm needles, and I am using Capella Luna Fibers, Simple DK, and Fairy. This is yarn that I got last year for Christmas, and it is the most perfect shade of green that I love and I think will look so good with my hair, but I've been too afraid to make anything out of it for the past year. I have had so many patterns in mind for this yarn and I just couldn't come up with the perfect pattern that would do this yarn justice. It was also the most money I had ever spent on yarn, so I was also nervous about that. Probably one of the most expensive I will ever buy. Because I'm gonna try not to spend as much money on sweaters, hand-dyed yarn for sweaters. It's sad, but it must be done. So anyways, I really wanted to do this yarn justice, but as soon as I saw the Hibernate Pullover, I have been really wanting a V-neck sweater. I don't think I have one. I haven't made one, and I really don't have a lot in my closet, just commercial sweaters. So as soon as I saw this one, and it came out fairly recently, I really wanted to make it with this green yarn, and I am so glad that I did because I think it will look beautiful. I am not super far in. I just have this so far, and of course I'm in the middle of a row, but that's life. I think the color is looking so good. It's not a pure tonal. I feel like it is a little bit variegated in that you can see lighter and darker greens, but I think that adds to the depth and I absolutely love that. I am alternating skeins to make sure that I don't get weird color pooling or striping or anything like that. And man, I had the hardest time winding this yarn. I always forget to check in hand-dyed yarn to make sure all of the strands of yarn are going in the right direction. You know, when you have a strand of yarn and they're held together by like, they're tied together with yarn to make the skein like all stay in one piece, and then you're supposed to put that on your Swift and then cut that piece that's holding it all together, and then you're good to go. I keep forgetting to see if there's a strand of yarn going over that kind of loop of yarn holding it together, because if you don't check, sometimes your yarn just gets tangled and you can't do it on your Swift, and that totally happened. But luckily, I married a man who loves untangling yarn. He thinks it's like a puzzle. He gets into this meditative state as he does it and just methodically untangles it, and which is perfection because I get so anxious and so frustrated when I have to untangle yarn. Drives me nuts. But he did that for me, so thank goodness for him. So yes, I have been alternating skeins on this. I am making a size C, which is a 43-inch finished circumference, which is my bust size, so technically 0 inches of positive ease. However, this is a superwash yarn, and I've worked with her yarn before, and it did grow on me. Not a ton, but it did grow. So I'm not expecting it to be 0 inches of positive ease. I'm expecting 1 or 2 inches, which I was between sizes, and the other size was 47.5 inches maybe, the next size up, and I really didn't want to knit that size and have it grow and be closer to 50 inches because I find that to be way too much positive ease for myself in a sweater. My sweet spot is between 45 and 47. So I ended up choosing 43. I also don't want a super low v-neck on this sweater, especially because I'm moving around a ton with having little kids, so I just want to be covered. And especially with it being a winter sweater, I don't want it to be too low. So that's another reason why I kind of sized down. And honestly, I think v-necks look better on me when they're more fitted rather than oversized. So those are kind of all the reasons. That being said, I'm still a little bit worried that it's going to be a little bit too small and a little bit too tight, but I think I'll just add extra length in whatever I'm doing, like the body and the sleeves, so that if I do have to stretch it during blocking width-wise, I'll still have enough length in the body and the sleeves to be able to do that. This v-neck is top down, so I am just working on the raglan shaping right now. I really enjoy the raglan that has 4 stitches in the middle. I find that very satisfying. And after this, you eventually join in the front for the v-neck and then just keep working through the body. And then as a 2x2 rib, I'm pretty sure, for the collar of the v-neck and the hem and the sleeves and everything. So yeah, a fairly simple raglan v-neck, but I am enjoying the pattern so far. I think it's very well laid out, especially with all of the raglan increases that are happening, and I'm pretty sure it's a compound raglan. I haven't made it too far in yet to tell, but it's just very clear and very enjoyable to knit so far. And I haven't worked on a DK project in quite a while, and I am finding it just flying off of my needles. It could also be the nature of a superwash yarn and the port jacket, which was a very rustic hairy yarn, and then going to this, it just feels so smooth. And I've been working on more and more Chow-Goo needles, which I love. So overall, just flying through, absolutely loving the actual process of knitting it. I started this on December 8th, so I've been working on it for 4 days now, making great progress during watching Vlogmas and also the Skeleton Crew. I don't know if any of you are Star Wars fans. We are major Star Wars fans here. So that has been fun to watch as I've been knitting this. That is all for the knitting, but I do want to show you some acquisitions because it was my birthday yesterday and I got some yarn. So the first thing that I got, which was not a surprise because I ordered it back in August and have been waiting for it for months, but it was expensive and I knew it would like kind of have to be my birthday present. So got this beautiful yarn from the Wandering Flock. This is their 100% superwash extra fine merino. It is a single ply and it's fingering weight, and it is Neon Lilac is the colorway for it. It's just such a warm purple and I absolutely love it. I have 4 skeins of these and I'm planning on making the Market Henley by Perfectly Knotted, which is a waffle knit Henley sweater. So that is my current plan for this. It's so soft. I love it so much. Other yarn goodies I got from mostly my mom. She got me these 2 ornaments from a local yarn store. Oh, I dropped one. The first one is this cute sweater. They are handmade and they even have the name of whoever made them on the tag. So there's this cute sweater, and then there's these cute little colorwork mittens. So cute, I love them. And then my mom watches this YouTube. Shout out to you, Mom. So she screenshotted this from when I was showing the book Joyful Colorwork Socks by Charlotte Stone. And me and my mom have an inside joke relating to cupcakes, and these socks, if you can't tell, are cupcakes. I think they're called the cupcake socks. I don't know what they're called. I'll have a link down below though. So she screenshotted this from my YouTube and then went to a local yarn store, chatted up the employees and had them help her pick out the yarn to make these socks and put it all together. Isn't that so cute? She got me both this one and this one so I can decide if I want it to be more colorful on the base color, just like this one, or I can choose to just do this plain cream one. And I think I may end up going with that because I really want the cupcakes to shine through, and also I think it would just be really fun to have an extra pair of socks in just this color, because this one is Universal Yarn Zesty Sock and this colorway is called Cupcakes. Then I could have 2 socks based on cupcakes, which would be really fun. So yeah, that's that one. This one is Cascade Heritage in color 5618. And then I have 2 of these Universal Yarn Uni Merino Mini and these are only 25 grams. And this color is Romance. And then I have Red Wagon. And then Sea Glass. And it was so fun opening this and just seeing all the cute little yarns in the box and then seeing the pattern. So I really can't wait to make these. I think I might start them next because I've really been liking the basic socks, but I'm craving some colorwork socks now. So those are definitely in my near future. Okay, that's all for the knitting yarn content. I did want to mention really quick that I finished a book. Since the last podcast, I finished the Unselected Journals of Emma and Lion, Volume 8. This series is so witty, so delightful, laugh out loud, but also deeply heartfelt, and it is a romance. There are 8 volumes out so far. This one is the thickest one, and it's 340 pages, but the earlier ones are less than 100 pages, but yes, highly recommend. They're by Beth Brower. And then as for what you can expect from me in the next 2 months, video-wise. So we have the podcast today. I really want to do a winter knitting plans video that I'm hoping to film early next week. So keep a watch out for that. And then I also would love to do a everything I knit in 2024 video. And I feel like that one would be super fun to make because most of the stuff you haven't seen, because I started this YouTube in August, I think. So it could be fun to review things from earlier from that and also just kind of gain some perspective on what I've knit this year and if I've worn it or not, and use that as kind of a template and jumping off point for making some goals for next year. So I want to do that video at the end of this month, and then early next year, in early January, I want to do a 2025. I want to show you my make 9, so 9 things I want to make in 2025, as well as some knitting goals that I have. So if those sound interesting to you, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss them coming up. I'm very excited to film all of those for you. And of course, I'll still have podcast episodes sprinkled in throughout so that we can still chat about what I'm making. If you have made it to the end and have watched this, I really want to thank you so much. I know that there's a lot of content out there for Vlogmas right now, and it's also a busy time of year, so it really means a lot that you would sit down and watch this and chat with me. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to comment on the question of the day. Tell me how or who taught you how to knit or crochet or whatever making that you do. So thank you so much for being here. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Savan Knits if you would like more content from me in between episodes. I hope you're finding joy in what you're making, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!